The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome in to another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And here we are, episode 86.
86.
What is our topic today?
This is life a simulation?
That is a very good question.
We've been teasing this episode for a while.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, before we hop into it, anything from last week?
I do. I have a couple things. I just wanted to get out real quick so that we can get into this because I have 7 pages of notes here for this episode. First, I wanted to let everybody know we got an email from podstatus.com, and they give like the rankings of where you are and what do they call in the charts. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so this is the first time I've received anything from them, and they said their email said that we are doing very good in the Netherlands. We are 178 on the chart for spirituality in the Netherlands.
Very cool.
Which makes me so happy because those are my people.
Yeah.
So there couldn't be a better country. So thank you to everybody that lives in the Netherlands.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting. Wasn't there somebody else on there?
Yeah. 190 in the UK.
Oh.
So we appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was a really cool email to get.
Yeah. Very cool.
And then the other thing is I just found this out for myself and wanted to share because it is exciting is that Audible has released Conversations with Nostradamus by Dolores Cannon. So you can now listen to that book. I am not good at just sitting. I'm not good at sometimes listening to the book either, but I'm really not good at sitting and trying to read one. So Audible seems to be the easiest way for me to get into these books. And that one I'm so excited. I can't wait to listen to it.
Cool.
Right now I'm listening to Jesus and the Essenes. Since we're around Christmas time, I'm hoping that I can get it done before then and we can talk about it, one of these weeks. And then there's also a follow-up on that
which
one.
I wasn't even aware of that one.
Yeah, So definitely a lot of Dolores to talk about.
Yeah.
And I just got to listen to the books.
Cool.
So
the last one I did was Convoluted Universe. I haven't done one since. So.
Yeah, I tried that one, but my mind's not quite convoluted enough yet for that.
It has a very similar thing to it as our topic today, actually.
I'm sure it does, so. Yeah. You have to learn. You have to one step at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's all I have.
Very good. That's good information.
Yes.
Thanks. Well, then, episode 86, shall we?
Yes, let's do it.
Is life a simulation?
Okay, so we were going to record yesterday, and something told me I needed to watch The Matrix. I've never seen The Matrix, which is kind of embarrassing because I know it was very popular for a long time. But there was just something about it that when it came out, it just really turned me off. Like, it looked like a kung fu movie. I hate to say it, but that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
So I never gave it a chance. And so, it was like one of these people jumping through the air in slow-mo. I'm like, no. So, but I kept feeling like I needed to watch it, not because that's really what I feel it's like, but because there's a lot of things in there that do make sense to what we're going to talk about today. So if you've seen this movie, we'll probably refer to it. There were other things that I came across in the last 24 hours that I'm so glad that we waited another day to record. I came across this morning this guy named Aaron Doughty, and we're going to talk about him a lot later in the episode. But I was looking for somebody to explain this to me spiritually instead of scientifically, like the Matrix type thing. I wanted more spiritual, and he was it. And I found it this morning, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah,
so thankful.
He's I don't know. It's like it's just this layman's terms.
Yeah,
it's simplistic. He seems like a totally normal person, just explaining something that's not logical or reasonable. According to our mindset, but it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a difficult subject to explain. There's a lot of different things to it, so bear with us. But I have been feeling this way for a long time. Like, this is a subject that, I wasn't just, reading stuff on it. I went, oh, that's interesting. This is something I have actually been feeling inside for a while. Mm-hmm. And there were a few times I talked to you about it. Yeah. And you're like, I don't quite get it. But I think now you get it more and you understand, and I understand more what I'm feeling. And so this, I think if you're in the spiritual awakening process, you probably get to that point where you start to feel like, man, this is a little bit too weird how I do something good and something good comes to me. Mm-hmm. Like a video game, I hit the right button and then the prize comes, right. That's kind of what I was feeling, but it was very hard to explain.
Right. Because it's so much like that. And when you think about just the way our minds work and what they're capable of, the fact that we can make computers, mm-hmm. okay? We tend to think of that in those terms, but we're essentially the ones making the computers.
Right.
So our minds are vast, very vast.
Yes.
This just enables us to store data that we don't necessarily need to carry around in our mind. Does that dumb us down at some point? Maybe.
I don't think so.
But
it's just the storage. It's extra storage. Yeah.
Totally. But yeah, I think that's it's hard to put it. I don't think of it in a digital technological term. I think of it in organic.
Yes, absolutely. Watching The Matrix, it's technology. It's the artificial intelligence. Where when it comes to this, like for me and for you, and on the spiritual level, it's not artificial intelligence. There isn't some little controller, controlling us, making us do this. We're our own, our own controller.
Well, I mean, our brains are a computer essentially.
Yeah,
and
they're
Aaron, this is what kind of really grabbed my attention about Aaron. Excuse me, and his explanation in this was that he was like, I'm not talking about a simulation in the sense of a digital wires connected to a monitor and a computer. I'm talking about an organic sense. When you think about our brains, and if we're able to create computers, they are essentially organic computers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they talk about in Convoluted Universe, Dolores' book, about computers are going to get to be so advanced, they'll be nothing more than a bowl of water.
Right. I remember you mentioning that when you read that.
Like molecules in it that are holding the information.
Right.
So why is that impossible when there's no plastic or metal or, metal wires with coaxing on them in our bodies?
Right. Yeah.
But we are essentially a walking computer.
We are. I watched one video that I found on YouTube. It was titled, Are We Real? Or Are You Real? Something like that. And that's exactly what it talks about. It talks about how we are the strongest computer. Our brain is so strong that they probably could never duplicate that, or at least they haven't yet. Right. They probably will at some point. But like they were talking, like 10 to the this power or whatever. I don't know. But it was a lot. It was a lot. Like it made the computer blow up that it had, your brain has that much memory in it and that much.
And that's just what you're tapped into.
Right. I mean, exactly.
What you're only aware of your five senses.
Right.
That's what makes you aware in this reality that we call reality.
Right.
But another point which, that Aaron made about that is that because it's organic, kind of like what you said it's like a video game, you do something good and you get something good back.
Right.
There's this reflective thing happening.
Yes.
In each one of us. Mm-hmm. In this simulation, in this life.
Right.
And so maybe the ones that we need their approval or their recognition the most, we seem to struggle with that the most.
Right.
Right? Until we do something internally to change that.
Exactly.
And then you see the change.
That's right.
Outwardly.
Yep.
So he made a lot of great points in his explanation.
He really did. Yeah, he did. I know this subject is you have to have an open mind, but something I can't remember if he said it or somebody else said it, but I wrote it down because I thought it was open-minded skepticism, but be open, not naive. Have open-minded skepticism. So, like,
Yes.
you know, if you go into this, a lot of people will be like, "Oh my gosh, well, if I'm hearing it in these places, then it has to be true." No, make up your mind for yourself.
Right.
You know, when it comes to things, if it doesn't make sense, you know, it like when. Okay, so here's a good example. This is some place that is agreed upon by scientists and by some spirituality, basically. Okay, most scientists believe that it is really, really possible that we are living in some kind of simulation. I
There's
watched
tests to try to prove it. There's been tests to try to prove it.
yes, and they have no proof that it isn't. There's nothing that says that it isn't.
Right.
I watched, it was Elon Musk on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he said that it is a 1 in a billion chance that this is base reality, that this is reality. 1 in a billion chance. But see, what's happening is that these are scientists, okay?
Yeah.
They don't think on the spiritual level. They think on the scientific level. They, you know, on a completely different level. So they're trying to find the proof to this.
Right.
They're not looking at the fact of maybe this is a spirit realm.
Right.
Maybe this is another dimension
Right.
that we are kind of controlling this simulation from, or
Right.
helping this simulation from, so to
Right.
speak. So that right there, to me, is a lot of proof when it lines up. When you have scientists that are like, we don't know how, but this is what we believe.
Right.
And then you have the religion or the spiritualism that is like, this is what we believe, but we don't know how.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It's a process, you know, like kind of the open mind, going back really fast to the open-minded skepticism. That's how I was able to sort of digest what was happening for you when you became aware of the fact that you were a medium and that you could connect to the other side.
Right.
I
Yeah.
was a skeptical type of person in my life, and I made up my own mind, not necessarily by so-and-so's fact, but I will say things I like to see fact.
Right.
Most people would. But it was enough to show me
Right.
that I was open-minded. Even though I was skeptical, I was open-minded enough to take that in
Right.
and absorb that. I think the explanation here for why this is organic and not we're not in a Pac-Man machine in some arcade in a different dimension.
Right.
You know, we believe that you pass and you go to the other side,
Yep.
which in itself is a different dimension.
Yes.
It's here, but it's there. Okay? All in the same.
Right.
For them, not for us. And there's a part of this reason why. So we believe also that you come back and you do these lives for a reason, or these simulations for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It is for your soul to learn as much as it can be about what you really are.
Right.
So kind of what his theory and what Aaron was saying is that we are always on the other side.
Yeah.
And we go into a meditative or a sleep type of state that we then come into this simulation.
Right.
And that is for the sole purpose of learning.
Yes.
And he makes a good point, too. Not just learning life lessons, but remembering. Mm-hmm. Our goal is remembering where we really come from.
Right.
We weren't born and then died and went to heaven and either came back or stayed, if that's what you believe. I believe we started there.
Yeah, me too.
Born into a body or a simulation for learning.
Right. Absolutely.
So that's what we mean by organic. So you're in sort of a meditative state there. That's why I believe it's important to do something for yourself meditatively here, because that will help you remember or connect that feeling
yes.
of what your true self is. So kind of what he's saying, which this was the other key point to me that makes this even more believable and makes a lot of sense, is that This is an ego-based reality simulation that we were born into this life to find ourselves, find who we are and our identity in this big giant world of 7.5 billion people, and to leave our mark.
Yep.
And then when you pass, you realize it has nothing to do. Like, so Eddie Van Halen passed, and he's one of the greatest guitar players ever to stand on this globe.
Yep.
He's not that there. He's recognized for his achievement, but he's now one of the greater good, of that energy, that vibration that's there to help this part.
Right.
To help us remember. That's the remembering part.
That's right.
And there's a reason why we don't know this the day we're born, because it would be awfully confusing to understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like you said, if you put on one of those virtual reality things, you know, VR,
Yeah.
you know, eyeglasses that since the day you were born, and that's what you lived in.
Right.
And then somebody took it off of you before you died, that would be a bit confusing.
That's almost what I feel like is happening to a certain extent. It's like taking off the blindfold. It's removing this illusion. And we were talking about this earlier, that this is hard to grasp. It's hard to grasp that I'm in my 40s and I'm just now feeling like this is what's actually going on. How am I just now figuring this out? How am I just now learning that I can control this simulation that, you know, Aaron said something that, okay, let me see if I can find it. You'll probably remember. He said something, oh crap.
Well, there's been things that have been shared with us, okay, through channeling with your mom and other people, my ex-mother-in-law, and some other people, and they share information about things that will come.
Right.
And that will happen. And they're always coming from a positive sort of standpoint, like, hang in there, don't worry, it's going to change.
Right.
Change is coming.
Right.
And then you start, you know, this is interesting because some things were shared that maybe weren't supposed to be shared, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot. But
Right.
there was like one thing that slipped through.
Yeah.
And that spirit got quiet for a while. Because I
Yeah.
think they got in a little bit of trouble for sharing that information.
Yeah. I think they got overexcited.
But this other information was still coming forth, and every single one has
Right.
happened. So then that makes me wonder, is that your mom and my grandfather and whoever it is, or that, you know, Rob, or loved ones that we have on the other side that are working with us, is that kind of them saying, hey, can we share, like, from there
Yeah.
to our higher consciousness, hey, is it okay if we share a little hint
Right.
to you through this
Right.
process so you'll remember,
Right.
or you'll at least see that you had this planned,
Right.
if you will, as part of your simulation.
Right.
So, and that goes to career change, you know, belief change,
Right.
parental change,
Yeah. There's so many things.
financial change.
Yep.
It just goes on and on.
Yep.
And then you start to realize, well, yeah. And some people might hear that, well, that's just because you've worked at it. You've plugged away at it. Well,
Right.
of course I did.
Yeah.
That nothing's going to just appear.
Right. Yeah. You have to work
It's
at it.
taking control of the simulation.
That's exactly right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, we are raised to believe that we can only hear and see and smell. We have these five senses, and that's it. You know, and in this that we watched, Aaron talks about the virtual reality and how if you put that on, that becomes your reality. Well, that's that for us now. This is our reality.
Right.
And over the last couple of years, or last few years, you and I have learned how to use other senses to connect to what Aaron called, was it data stream? Is that
Probable data.
Yeah, probable data.
Probable data. So that means
Data stream, yeah.
through intuition,
Yep.
I would maybe put synchronicities into that category as well.
Yes.
It's meaning you're allowing yourself to connect to certain vibrations or frequencies. In this simulation, because our senses, the 5 that we are aware of, can't pick up
No.
on all these other vibrations and frequencies. But in actuality, we have 360 senses.
Yeah, we have a lot.
In truth, as a spirit,
Yeah.
you can tell what's around you 360 degrees.
Yeah.
You can sense it all. We are only down to 5 here.
Yeah.
So we can't pick up on that
No.
at all. But that's part of this challenge in remembering, or our day-to-day existence, is to raise your frequency, your vibration
Yep.
up to that point, and you'll remember. And I'm not saying you're going to remember your past lives or you're going to remember what heaven's like. You're going to have a feeling that gives you this like, that makes sense.
Right.
Things start to happen easier.
Absolutely.
And this probable data, which I think in the simulation, the best way to explain that would be, we would call it logic or reason. There's things put here to remind us. A deja vu, I think those kind of things where it's like, hello,
Right.
we're trying to get your attention
Right.
here to let you know, yes, you have been there before.
Right. Exactly.
You know, where it's a landmark that you've gone by and you thought they tore it down and they didn't, or you thought they did, but, you know, vice versa, whatever.
Right.
That kind of thing. Those strange sort of moments,
Right.
Mandela
Yeah.
effect, I think these are all part of these sort of maybe, I don't know if it's glitches, if you would call it,
Yeah.
in it,
It
that's
definitely
there
could
to
be.
remind you of this. But the probable data is all out there kind of floating,
Yeah.
and either you're getting it shared with by your okay from the other side or from yourself. It's all information that's there to have.
Right.
And whether you recognize it as that information, that's up to you, I guess. That's part of your lesson.
Yeah. You were talking about vibrations, and that's a very important part of this because, you know, we can put it into terms of like 3D, 4D, 5D. That talks about this, the consciousness, the level of consciousness that you're in, okay? But then the vibrations are what gets you to that level of consciousness. We should do another episode on that, maybe. But when you're more connected to this, when you are letting your ego go, when you're... Some days I'm so immersed in this spiritual life that my vibrations are so high that there are things that I can do that I never thought I'd be able to do. Some of them unexplainable. I truly believe now that anything is possible. Walking through walls. I'm not saying I can walk through walls or I'll ever be able to. But if you are raised with this mindset and this level of consciousness to the point where you're constantly raising your level of consciousness and your vibrations, there is no reason why you couldn't.
Yeah.
There's no reason why the force isn't real. It's our minds that put the limits on it, you know?
Absolutely. I think
that's
you're
what we're
right. I
taught.
think it's mind over matter.
Yep.
And another book that I read many years ago called Illusions by Richard Bach. Great book, and it's about just a simple guy that's an auto mechanic or airplane mechanic in Ohio cornfields,
Yeah.
and learns this concept from somebody and is able to do this. You
Yeah.
know? So, killer book.
Yeah.
Really, I suggest it. And it's, again, goes with this, what are we doing here? And the things that we saw, or not we personally, but that have been passed down, you know, through thousands of years, is that people witness Christ do. Okay? That is, again, showing us proof that it's all mind over matter.
Oh, yeah.
It's a simulated thing, and he very much says in almost every thing that he did that you're capable of doing the same.
Absolutely.
I am no different than you.
He's a perfect example of that, of how he was just raised to believe this. Nobody put limitations on him.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said, you can't heal people.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Nobody can do that. You can't walk on water. Whatever. You can't do any of these things. Nobody told him that.
Right.
And so he believed that he could, and so he did.
Right.
You could sit here and say, I'm going to focus all my attention on that candle across the room and bringing it over here, with the force or whatever. Okay, but you truly don't believe that it's going to happen. Your vibrations are not high enough for it to happen, so it's not going to. But that doesn't mean it can't.
Right.
We put the limitations on all of these things ourselves of what's possible and what's not possible. Mm-hmm. We don't know. I mean, really, honestly, what's reality anymore? I don't know.
Right. No, every day we find something, even within our own world, and there's still things that we can't quite explain.
Right. One of the things that Aaron said is that reality is literally a dream. We are projecting from spirit. We are in spirit right now, dreaming we are in this 3D human avatar body.
Right.
And that, when he said that, my brain exploded. I was like, that's it right there. That's that. We're so connected to this meat suit, or this avatar, as he calls it, that we have a hard time disassociating from it and realizing that that's not what we are. What we are is what's inside of that,
Yeah, we want to focus on the identity, the ego, who we are in this world. And it makes a lot of sense, too, in the Dolores Cannon books where they talk about we go to sleep at night and we dream. Well, yes, you do dream about things that are stored in your subconscious, but I truly believe you actually you wake back up, if you will, on the other side.
Yeah.
When you go to sleep here, it's like you turn your computer off and you power it down for a few hours, and it goes to sleep. And then when it wake up, the next time you put it on, it wakes up. Similar to this is like we go to sleep there to meditate, to do this reality or this simulation, and then when we go to sleep here, we wake up back there to consult and counsel with our loved ones and other spirit guides on, okay, well, how do I face tomorrow?
Right. There's a reason why sleep is so important. Okay, well, there's a lot of reasons why it's so important. But if you think about it, I do like to compare this to a video game. I'm not saying we're in a video game.
No.
But I do like to compare it. And in a video game, sometimes they will give you a certain amount of lives or whatever. You'll have health. Let's look at it that way.
Right.
You'll have health, and your health meter starts to go down and down and down. So then what happens? Well, you have to take a break. Your game is over for right now, maybe, or whatever, So at night, it's like we're taking a break from that game. We're letting our health rejuvenate. And sleep is so important because that's exactly what it does. While you are sleeping, you're recharging because you are somewhere else, and you're letting this meat suit recharge and letting your brain recharge. And I truly believe, like you said, that we are somewhere else when we sleep. And that's kind of like taking the break, or, what happens when you turn the video game off for the night? Do you know what I mean? You go and you do something else. That's kind of how I feel,
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me that us as these beings have created something like a computer.
Right.
Or VR type of entertainment. It's almost a way for us to answer our own question.
Absolutely.
Like art imitating life and life imitating art, which seems to happen more so than ever. I don't know what it is. I find myself going to that statement a lot, and it's one of those things where I go, it's not surprising. It's like we're almost created it to show us what not in its actual 3D state, but we're trying to show ourselves what it is we are.
Absolutely. Every day we're trying to move our character more forward and try and do the right thing, and sometimes we just don't get it. Right. It doesn't click, and so our character has to stay for a minute or has to go back, and it's all a part of the simulation and the lessons, because that's really what it is. It's like you mentioned a lot. It was kind of mentioned here already, but the quote in my group on the cover photo is, "We are not we are not humans living a spiritual life. We're spirits living a human life.
Yeah.
And that is a great way to look at this.
Yes.
Is that we are literally spirits controlling this
We're
character.
not humans having a spiritual experience. We're spirits having a human experience.
Right. And sometimes if you think about the video games, okay, we reincarnate, right? So in the video games, sometimes you choose a different player because that player has they're good at different things. They have different weaknesses. Maybe they need to learn different things. Right. That's what we do. We live this life in this body, in this character, in the simulation. And then when we reincarnate, we're choosing a different character with different strengths and weaknesses.
He made another mind-bending point about this, is that this simulation involves it was like ego-based reflective. He talked about reflective. And I get that too, because not saying to take away from the other souls that are around me, but each one of these roles in my life, these other people, are actually me.
Yeah.
It's something within me that I have to face or deal with or change or embrace or love. It's part of the simulation.
Absolutely.
It's put there in front of me for a reason.
That's right.
You can ignore it and wake up every day and go, oh, it's body hurts. I got to get up, go to work, and I got to deal with this and mow the grass and take the kid there, and totally oblivious to what's really going on here.
Yep. All of those things, like you mentioned about getting up, going to work, my body aches, those things are all somewhat controllable by raising your vibrations. When you raise your vibrations, your body feels better. Everything feels better because you're not so tied to this. You know, we've talked about moving into the fifth dimension. And a lot of people get confused because they think, is this actually a physical shift? Is this Earth is going to be no more? And I mean, I see things, you know, people talking about this on TikTok, and people that don't understand are like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world.
Right.
No, it's a shift in consciousness. It's because when your mind shifts to thinking different thoughts and to seeing things differently, you start to be able to see so much more. Yeah. And that's shifting into the fifth dimension, is this global consciousness, this, that a lot of us are feeling this right now. This, you know. Yeah,
the Earth is already beautiful. Yeah. She's already wonderful and beautiful. That's virtually, as far as I'm concerned, that's not going to change. Yeah. She is where she is, and the reason these heavenly bodies are out there in the universe is so all these simulations can happen.
Absolutely.
It's like a stage for these little playgrounds, if you will. And really, it's playground because the idea, and Aaron made a good point at the end of his thing, was it's about, like you said, raising your vibrations and having fun. Yeah. They're like playgrounds. It shouldn't be about, I got to get up and do that, and my body hurts, and, you know, I'm getting old, and yada, yada, yada. This is part of the experience.
Yeah. It's funny because a little while ago, I couldn't find that quote. And it fits here perfectly where we're talking, because you're just talking about what he said afterwards. That quote was, the more you realize life is a form of a dream, the more dream life your life will become. Exactly. You allow more flexibility and lightness. Hello, there you go, right there. Yeah. And it's so true. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. But you have to believe, and you have to allow that dream to develop. And not a lot of people do that because they go, nah, it's not real. This is just life. We just get one of these and that's the end. Well, where's the problem? Who told you? Right. Where's the problem in trying to find out for yourself and digging a little bit deeper? Right. People are scared. They don't want to find out that there's something that they're afraid of or that's bad. But I'll tell you what, none of this is bad. It changes your life because it makes you look at things so different. You know, everything's a challenge. Everything you face every single day is a challenge. How are you going to respond to it? As simple as a look or, you know, a sarcastic comment that didn't need to be there. This is our character development. This is, what are we going to do with our character? Are we going to keep them in that same spot that they were in, emotionally, physically, whatever, or are we going to let them progress? And when they do things or say things, that they learn from it. And that's what we're supposed to do, is with everything, we're supposed to learn from it. That's the point.
Yeah,
That's
we're supposed
how you
to
win the game.
remember who we really are.
Right.
As a spirit, as a soul. Not in a body with an ego and something to prove or protect or stand up for. You know, nothing against standing up for anything, but I just mean the true essence of who you are.
Yep.
And you're still learning it. We're all learning it. And I kind of look at it, at least in this life, as the more that I can learn, I'm hoping it'll help me to remember the next time.
Me too.
I'll have an easier time getting into touch with that and remembering. Not necessarily this life, but that feeling of like,
Me too.
yeah, I started there.
Yeah.
I'm going to be okay. Because every time I'm going back, the same place.
Right.
Boom, right back.
Right.
You know, so it's a challenge, but being aware, and this is, again, awakening, awareness, there is freedom and strength in that.
Right.
And knowing that not everything is what it seems.
No, absolutely. What even is reality at this point? Like, one of the other things that I saw, they explain it in a good way too, is that, you know, there's a lot of people that aren't going to get this. They're not going to understand where this comes from. Okay, so they gave this analogy of an ant. Okay, you give the ant the idea of a roller coaster. Try to explain a roller coaster to an ant. Okay?
Yeah.
That makes no sense to the ant because they're living an ant life.
Right.
So if you're living a spiritual life, it may not make sense to the ant or to whoever. It just doesn't make sense because they don't understand. But that is one of the biggest parts of this journey, is becoming you. And Aaron said that too. Become authentic you. It does not matter. That's really a big part of this journey, is learning who you are and becoming that person and not caring if other people don't understand.
Not being apologetic. I don't think that means if you did something wrong, you shouldn't apologize.
No,
but
not apologizing for who you are.
For who your true essence is.
Right.
And kind of going back to that shift like you talked about, that the earth is already perfect. She's beautiful. It's us in the simulation that have the problems and the lessons to learn.
Right.
So the shift to this fifth dimension, the earth isn't going to change in the way it looks.
No.
Geographically, unless we get volcanoes and earthquakes and things, which that does happen through time. It's your perception of the way the world looks. And you hear this so much today, people saying, what is this world we live in?
Yeah.
They have a different pair of VR glasses on. Get that?
Yeah.
A different
Absolutely.
shade of glasses going. Each person has a different shade on, and so they're seeing it differently.
Right.
Some people might see it similar, but in essence, we're all looking through our own personalized viewer.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the world as hate and war and strife and racism and death, that's what your world is going to be.
Absolutely it is. Because that's what you're simulating. That's what you're creating. Absolutely. You know, I got into the scientific side of this week too, doing this research. And something that I ask myself often with this is how much of this is real? If it's a simulation, if it's, you know, whatever you want to call it, an illusion, how much of it is real? Okay, let me try and explain this. So for me, what I see around me it's real to me, okay? I see things on TV, like, for example, Paris, one place I want to go to. Okay, does Paris actually exist, or is that something in the simulation? Kind of like, okay, like the Truman Show, okay?
Right.
He lives in this, and so these things don't actually exist.
Right.
However, in the simulation, if you go to this place, it's built. It does exist. It becomes a part of the simulation. So, but how much of it actually exists? One of the things that this has calmed me down a little bit with that I remind myself a lot of times now that I believe this is that I have a hard time with animal abuse. Very, very, very hard time. It's a hard time for me to believe that I can't help them all. I want to help every single one of them. So maybe this is a part of my simulation, is that is a part of what's supposed to be my reality, this animal abuse, but it actually is not real.
Right.
Animals are not actually being abused. Does that make sense?
Right.
I hope that that's the case.
Right.
We don't know how deep this simulation goes.
Right. It makes me wonder, is like, does that mean in the world there's a version of the Earth where there's nothing on it? Nothing other than just its own vegetation and elements?
Anything's possible.
You know, so like, but then you can see this version of it where it has all this activity where one form of it is a playground.
Right.
And like you said, structures are built because one person's simulation meant they needed to build those things.
Right, exactly.
You know, so you get things like pyramids and Stonehenge and Eiffel Towers and
right.
But when you think about it, everything that's built here starts with a thought.
Absolutely.
Where does the thought come from?
Yeah. Yep.
Is it our ego that says, I thought of that. I came up with that.
Yep.
Going back to Eddie Van Halen, I've seen some interviews with him a lot lately because he's all over the place on just, social media and stuff and people. But I've seen interviews where he never learned how to read or write music and he just could do it. But he said, I'm just a channel.
Yeah.
He got up at NAMM and was debuting one of the guitars that they licensed with his name. And he's like, where do thoughts come from?
Right.
I'm just the channel. It just comes through me. I can't tell you how I do it or how it ever happened. It just happened.
Yes. I believe that. I used to be a dancer, and I like to, when I'm home alone, I will dance around the house. And one of the things that I have learned is that if I allow myself to channel them, they will dance for me. And there are things that I've never, not so much like the way that I move, but the combinations. Mm-hmm. Like, it's being choreographed for me. I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
Or Guitar Hero, you could look at it like that. Like,
right.
Higher You is in the other dimension playing Guitar Hero through you. It's
right.
coming through you.
Right.
It is. I feel it, and I know you do too when you play music. That you feel this connection. When I do this show, I get nervous every time. Still, we're on episode 86, and every time before, I'm like, do I really have to do this? I love it. I love doing it. Don't get me wrong, but there's that stage fright that starts for a second.
Yeah.
But the way that I calm myself with that stage fright is knowing that I have no control of what comes out of my mouth during this episode. I channel for most of it. When I stumble, mm-hmm. it's me, my logical side, interrupting the channeling side. Right. You can hear me do it, mm-hmm. and then I lose track, and I'm like, Yeah. It happens a lot because I want to take control, but I don't have control, and I'm okay with that. That's what they're trying to kind of work through us so that we can spread these things. Mm-hmm. With that, we're just channels for them. Whether it's music or, the psychic work, I just tap into it. You tap into it. When I do psychic readings, it's just like plugging into them. It's
a direct connection.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why I realize
it's that data stream.
It's that probable data stream. Yeah. I realize for me, it's part of my mental health overall to be connected to those things, whether it's art or music, or stuff like this.
Yep.
And, getting into that deeper consciousness and working on you as a person,
mm-hmm.
That to me is what it really is about.
Yep.
Being around others that you love, essentially. It's family, it's close friends, or common ground, common goal kind of thing is what connects us to a lot of people. But that I'll go back to it, we were talking about it earlier, that when our band was several years into this and we let our drummer go, and it was like, oh, great, what are we going to do now? Sit here for 3 months and watch this thing fizzle because we can't audition the right guy. But we all knew one guy that we all wanted. If we could have picked him out of a hat,
Yeah.
we would have all picked the same name.
You've been talking about him for years.
And I've dealt with him and worked with him, and
Yeah.
he was a friend of ours.
Yeah.
Well, he happened to be in a cover band, a Fleetwood Mac cover band called Twisted Gypsy. And then we have our band called Gypsy Brown. That was the first sign for me of, and putting it into that probable data category.
Right.
Of like, hold on a second. And there was a couple different ones, but I kept telling you, something's telling me to call Milo.
Yeah.
But I'm like, he's kind of a professional, not kind of, he's a professional. I mean, we're not really there
Yeah.
yet, you know? But that was the probable data saying, pushing me, and then me making that connection with the two words. It was
Right.
like, yeah, I can't ignore this anymore. And it worked out.
Yep.
So, again, and then the same thing with Rich coming into the band. We channeled, or you channeled, with your mom and Rob, I believe it was Rob. And they kept showing you a wooden carousel. And I'm like, what are they trying to talk about?
And I could see it spinning like a record. I knew it
Yes.
was music related.
So
and
I'm
I'm like,
like,
why
oh,
is this carousel
They're
music
talking about a
related?
record. Maybe we'll make a record, which we are doing that too. But then months later, there was no probable data other than that. I just didn't catch it.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, Rich's name popped into my head, which we just celebrated a year anniversary with him.
Yeah, today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Rich.
Congratulations, Rich.
We love having you.
Yes, we do. I say that like I'm a member. I'm not.
But anyways, but you guys chat all the time.
Yeah.
It's fun. But anyways, so that was the probable data that I missed out on. They
Yeah.
shared that with me. I'm fortunate that I have you that
It
they
would have
could
been,
do
it's
that.
Wooden Circus that we were missing out on.
was his previous band.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, when his name popped into my head with no other probable data, all of a sudden I went to Samantha and said, you know what it was? It wasn't Wooden Carousel, it's Wooden Circus.
Yep.
And they were trying to say Rich, but
Yep.
we had already gotten somebody else for about a year who didn't work out.
Yep.
Let him go, and then that's when Rich's name popped into my head. So they're like, no, we're not going to do another year of
gonna
somebody,
let you figure it out
somebody
again, yeah.
else, you know,
Here's the
derailing
name.
the
Yeah.
situation. We need to get right to the point, so we're just going to put it in your head.
Perfect.
But is that them, or is that me? Is it a
Right.
combination of them going, can we share some information from you to you
Right.
to help you? Because you're getting in your way.
Right. Or is it your higher consciousness? You
Right.
know, that's a hard one to try and figure out. I still try and figure out, like, what is me controlling this, my higher consciousness, and what is my mom or somebody else, you know? There's certain abilities that make sense that I'm being helped with, you know, through them. And this data streams that Aaron was talking about, he mentions remote viewing. And that's something
Yeah.
that I know is my higher consciousness. I've become really good at remote viewing. And with finding lost items, this lady posted in my group a couple weeks ago that she lost Christmas ornaments. Where are they? I can't find my Christmas ornaments. And I could see them. They are in the back of the closet. And I told her they're in the back of the closet. You just haven't, a small closet, you haven't looked back far enough.
Right.
That's exactly where they were. This remote viewing, once you tap into this data stream, this higher consciousness, you can see things. I can see things now. I can see things as they're playing out. You know, if somebody says, where's such and such, I can probably tune into this person and see what they're seeing. This is the data stream. This is the higher consciousness, the raising your vibrations. Those are the types of things that happen. They seem
Right.
impossible, but they're not.
They're not. Let's take example. You're thinking about somebody heavily on your mind for
Yeah.
whatever, and either, I don't know, you're just thinking about this person a lot, and they call you or they text you. You're putting your energy and your vibration out to this stream that we can all literally connect to each other's minds from as far away as we possibly wanted.
Yep.
If you believe you could, you can. But that's part of that stream.
Yeah.
And it happens to me regularly. I just said,
Yeah.
we were talking the other night about synchronicities and numbers, and 9/11 I would see for a while and I would tell you, and then I haven't seen it in a while. just kind of went away.
Yeah.
And I was texting our daughter to say something, and I accidentally typed the wrong name, which happened to be her aunt's name.
Yeah.
Very similar name. And then a couple hours later, walked out to get something and saw 9/11.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is weird.
Yeah.
Like, I was saying it, and I brought it to myself. So it's up to me to connect. What is that?
Yeah.
Is it just a way of them
Right.
letting me know, yeah, you get it?
I like to play games. I like to see if I can get them to do that on command. So, for example, yesterday was a really, really weird day. There was a video of a talking cat that I saw that threw me for a loop.
Weird.
There was somebody that emailed us wanting to come on the show that's a flat earther. And I was like, this is a really weird day. I said, but I was doing this research. I'm like, I really need like some kind of confirmation that this is real and that I'm not just losing it. And I said, so there's been two really weird things that have happened. I need a third one. And you know what the third one was?
What?
I think is that we were going through, we have a bunch of cards like that we could, use at any time. That are blank cards. They're all sorted by the day, Christmas and birthdays or whatever. So I was looking for an envelope for one of the cards that was in there that I found, and I pulled out a card that had already been used, and it was from your ex-mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And it said "Love Mom," and the way that she signed "Mom," I got to find one from Linda.
Looks very Dutch.
The exact same way.
Yeah.
So at first I thought it was from my mom, and I was like, oh, I thought, why is this here? Like, I have a whole, thing of cards from my mom. And then I looked up and it said that it was to you guys, and I was like, whoa, trip. And to me, that was a pretty clear sign of, that was a weird thing, just because I've gone through that. You have no idea. I've cleaned that box out. You could see how organized it was. It was organized by holiday. So for there to be a random card in there just completely blew my mind.
Right. It's a box of blank cards. Why are we keeping this one? And how is it not? Because I've seen you go through it a couple times.
Yeah.
And how it got missed each time.
Every time.
But yeah, I looked at the words. I'm like, I can totally see Dutch for sure. But I could even see the Indonesian in her writing a little bit.
Yeah, it was a trip. So I like to do those kinds of things, play games and see, tell me something. If this is the way it really is, then show me. Give me proof.
I'm going to try that some more.
It works, but you have to believe. That's really the thing. If you're just like, no, I don't believe it, it's not going to work. But you can really use that for anything, really. Decisions that you're making. I don't usually go to, like, show me one sign. I'll be like, I need a bunch of them, But it really, it does. It's possible. It's that data stream. We're connected to them. It's just how high our vibrations are compared to their vibrations are so high.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Yes, it is, isn't it? How much time do we have left?
About 3 minutes,
Oh,
4 minutes.
do you want to talk about the Mandela effect?
Sure.
Okay, because I did this, when I did this research, I didn't know where this episode was going. I didn't see it taking this turn to talk about Aaron the whole time, which was awesome. I'm so glad I found that.
Yeah, he was really
perfect.
He was a nice fresh breath of air, kind of.
Yeah, but one of the things that we thought about was the Mandela effect and how that a lot of times people look at that as a glitch in the matrix, so to speak.
Right.
As proof that this is a simulation of some kind. And what the Mandela effect is it was coined by somebody that realized that a lot of people believed that Nelson Mandela died in the 1980s, but he actually died, I believe it was 2009.
Yeah, because he was imprisoned, wasn't he?
Where did I thought I wrote it down
For a
here.
while.
He was, yeah. But I was one of those people that truly believed that he died in the 80s. And so when they said in like 2009 or whatever that he died, I was like, or maybe it was 2003, whatever. I was like, he what? Like, he's been gone for a while. What are you talking about? So many people believe that. So that's why this is called the Mandela effect. And so I asked our listeners this week, I gave them some comparison of things. And you can look this up. If you look up the Mandela effect, you'll find the same pictures that I did, the same articles. A few of the things that people believe look one way or said something different. First of all, we have the Fruit of the Loom, okay, their logo.
Right.
A lot of people remember it with a cornucopia. Do you think it has a cornucopia or not? How do you remember it?
It's a bundle of grapes.
But is there like a cornucopia, like a, you know what those are?
Yeah, like it's coming out.
Right. Or is it just laying there?
I just recall random fruits.
Yeah, that's the way it is. But a lot of people do remember it.
They view it as a cornucopia.
Uh-huh. Actually, let's see. That one was split 50-50 on ours. People went 50-50 on that. Same with the Flintstones. People remember it as being Flintstones. S-T-O-N-E-S. But it's actually Flint Stones.
Flint Stone.
Uh-huh. So when they see it, they think, oh, Flintstones.
Right.
This one got me. It still gets me. This to me is a sign.
Flint, you would spark them together to make fire.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Total sense. The show Sex in the City, Sex and the City. Is it Sex in the City or is it Sex and the City? I would have bet my entire savings on that it was Sex in the City.
Yeah.
It's Sex and the City.
Yeah.
That one, I think for a lot of women were like...
Well, that's a tough one because in our American slang can go as for and.
Right. Yeah.
But I always just thought it was meant in.
Right. Are these glitches in the Matrix? Are they, simple things that, we're forgetting or we hear them wrong? Or there's so many different examples of them. The last one that I used was but two of the people that took this said that they believed that it was the one that it is not, which is, Berenstein Bears. Is it S-T-E-I-N or S-T-A-I-N? It is actually S-T-A-I-N.
Stain.
Uh-huh. But all but two said that it was S-T-E-I-N. And I bet a lot of you right now are going, what? There's no way.
Yeah.
Does Curious George have a tail or not? He does not.
No.
But a lot of us would say he did. There's something, too, with the Monopoly guy about, having a eyeglass, and I don't think he does, where a lot of us remember him having one. If you look this up, you'll find this. It's so interesting. We don't really know what it is. We put it in the same category, I think, as deja vu. It's a weird phenomenon that we can't really explain, but it absolutely could be a glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah, and whether it's a glitch, meaning accidental, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it's something we all experience, and it's like a monument that we go by that you're used to seeing. You're going to go drive by the pyramids, you're going to see the pyramids there.
Yeah.
Every time.
Right.
Yep. So it's something there for all of us to reel us in and make us remember.
Yep.
It's like that weird feeling. Do you remember?
Right.
Like the deja vu. Don't you remember?
Right.
It's weird. I don't, but I remember.
Yeah. I liked in The Matrix where they had that moment of deja vu. They addressed that in The Matrix. He sees the black cat twice, and he tells them, and then they're like, what happened? Tell us. You can see that, they know it's something deeper than just, oh, this feels weird. It feels like it happened before. You know that Keanu Reeves actually said that The Matrix was a documentary? That's how much he believes that. He's very, very spiritual. Yeah. I like him a lot. And I don't think he means it that, that's exactly how it happened.
I think he's open-minded.
I think he's very open-minded about it. But I thought that was kind of cool when I saw that. Because, it's not a documentary, but it opens your mind. It makes you see that we are plugged into this human experience when we should be tapped into it as a spirit experience in a human body.
The Matrix, the movie, is sensationalized and Hollywoodified, and
it was good though. I liked it.
It was very good. Mm-hmm. I don't view it the same literally as it looked in the movie. That's not at all. It comes off very dark and scary.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what this is about.
Yep.
At all. The only thing that's scary is yourself.
Yep. There was something else that I watched this week that Chelsea told me to watch. I used to watch Grey's Anatomy from the time it started until probably a few years back. I watched it and then I just stopped. But she told me, you need to watch this episode because it fits into what you guys are talking about this week. Mm-hmm. And so there's a character, Derek Shepherd, and he died in a car accident. And in this episode that I watched, his wife, Meredith, she has COVID and she's in the hospital and she's dreaming about him. And in the dream, she's running towards him. And every time that she gets closer to him, it zooms her back. She can't get closer to him. And she says, why can't I get to you? And he says, the sand is just an illusion. Don't rely on it. It's just an illusion. And she starts to get it. Like, after a few times of coming back to this, she starts to get it. And she starts to run more and more, and then all of a sudden she face plants. And he laughs at her, and he's like, "You're just not ready. You're not ready." You know?
That makes sense.
It's your consciousness, because you're so attached to your human body that you can't see that there's so much more to this than just this human experience.
Yeah. It's not, it's part of the game. It's part of us learning. It's not supposed to be that easy and apparent, because it would be very confusing if you were doing this since the day you were born and growing up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's very few people, I think, that, well, I'd say maybe Christ might be one example, but he was told something which made him think something, you know. I think then if you were told you were the princess of France,
right,
you know, the day you were born, you're going to believe you're the princess of France.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right.
So, but he was able to still show us
Yes.
that it was mind over matter.
Absolutely. I think somebody's telling us that the show is over.
I hear a squeak.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Zuna comes in, our Great Dane, with the toy, and he's squeaking. I guess that means get over your show and play with me. I hear you back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that was good. I like it.
It was good. It's so funny. I still have like 3 other pages, but they're all scientific stuff. And you know what? It doesn't matter.
Right.
We got it.
It's going to be mind-bending a little bit no matter what, but the more that you... Not more. The less you restrict your mind.
Right.
And allow yourself to think of things. Ponder things.
Yep.
Truth about things, you know? Like, give yourself some time to lay on the hood of your car and just stare up at the stars.
Right.
And ponder.
Yep.
You know?
Be open-minded about it.
Yeah.
You never know what you'll find.
I think you'll see that the answers will reveal themselves.
They do.
So.
Absolutely they do. Yeah.
Cool.
Yay.
Well, before we say goodbye, you want to share your page?
Yes. Before I forget, I would like to say thank you to Aaron Doughty for all of the information that we found of his today. And I want to plug his podcast, which is the Aaron Doughty podcast. And I'm going to start listening to it. He has lots of episodes, and he talks about the same stuff that we do. So I'm excited to see what he has.
Yes, thank you. That was cool to watch.
Yeah. It's one of those things that you come across when you need it. You know, you, like Dolores Cannon, you came across Dolores like that, where it's just like, wham, here it is. Mm-hmm. You know, this is somebody that can help you. They can, you know, be a little bit of a mentor or guide you or whatever.
And she, again, was like a fresh breath of air for me, like someone in layman's terms that could just simplify this for me.
Yep. Absolutely. So anyways, that's Aaron. And now my website is SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com, and you can find anything you'd like to know about me there. Or if you'd like to email the show, you can email us at spiritualjoneses@gmail.com. And all of our, you can find us on all of the major podcasts. At Spiritual Joneses is the easiest way to find us anywhere. Mm-hmm. I have it set up that way. So, yeah.
Smart of you.
Thank you.
Very nice. And for me, for my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Facebook and Instagram. I just did a special one for the baby girl, but I'm not going to say.
Yeah.
But she'll get it for Christmas, and then I'll post it later probably.
It's very exciting.
Yeah. So, and then for the music, gypsybrown.com for the web, at Gypsy Brown Music for Instagram, and at Gypsy Brown Band for Facebook. And that's it for me.
Yay.
Cool. Well, we hope everybody got something out of this.
That we do.
That we didn't bend your mind too much.
Yeah.
But take some time to think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And ask for signs.
Yep.
If it's true or not, and you'll be shown.
Yep.
And we hope everybody has a great week.
That we do.
And until next week, peace and love.